Recently, CNN host Chris Cuomo stated that being called a fake journalist or a fake news outlet is akin to being called an ethnic slur like chink or wetback. He didn't say those words, though. This is what he said.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement. We all have these ugly words for people. That's the one for journalists. And David, he just keeps doubling down when the facts don't favor his position.
The thing I find most interesting about this tale isn't the off-colored comparison, pun intended, but why people call CNN fake news in the first place. CNN does market themselves as the most trusted name in news, so what is it about their coverage that makes people distrust them? Let's look at a few exhibits as to why I and so many people think that CNN is indeed fake news. Fake news exhibit A, cutting people off or switching to black. In news, radio, and television, you should only cut people off when they're being belligerent. CNN, however, cuts people off for ideological reasons. Take this as an example.
He says he knows nothing about it, hasn't seen any of these reports. Is that a problem?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was watching CNN fake news. What do you think?
You don't buy it.
That was a joke.
I know it was a joke. I'm saying you don't buy what he said, obviously.
Aaron?
Yes. I'm sorry, Senator. I'm saying you obviously don't buy what he said. You believe that he has seen these reports. I mean, to your point.
Kevin, I'm not. Are we on?
It looks like we've lost connection with Senator Sanders, so let's just try to get that back up. Do we have him back? Okay, so what we're going to do is take a break. I don't want to waste our time. We only have the senator for a few minutes. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, continue our conversation with Senator Sanders.
The reporter claims they lost connection with Bernie Sanders. We all know what happened, though. CNN chose to cut off Bernie Sanders' mic without the reporter's knowledge on live television just because Bernie Sanders joked that CNN was fake news. Again, you only cut people off if they're being belligerent. Was Bernie Sanders being belligerent? Nope. Ironically, CNN proved Bernie Sanders' little joke right when they cut him off. Let's look at another example. This time, it's a CNN reporter being cut off for criticizing Clinton.
Remember, Hillary Clinton has some vulnerabilities herself, even as she calls for criminal justice reform because of her support in the 1990s for anti-crime legislation that ultimately helped contribute to this era of mass incarceration that she now speaks out again.
We just lost Breonna Keeler, who was in Springfield, Illinois, where Hillary Clinton just spoke. You heard Hillary Clinton was talking about race relations, also talking about Donald Trump, two things she will continue to talk about, I think, for the remainder of this election, just as he talks about her.
This example is even more damning. It shows that CNN does two things. They punish their own reporters if they don't toe the ideological line, and second, they're very pro-Clinton. The point the journalist was making was pretty valid. Clinton's policies led to mass incarceration, which in turn harms her chances of galvanizing support among liberals, and that's probably true. However, CNN is so pro-Clinton that they would rather cut off the reporters than let their audience hear the truth. Fake news exhibit B, asking the shitty questions. In radio and news television, when you interview or debate someone, you shouldn't attack a straw man, nor should you make attacks personal. That's not the way CNN talks to people. Look at the way they treated Ron Paul.
And let me ask you, I mean, you've been answering a lot of questions lately about the newsletters that were published under your name, and some of the things contained in them were conspiracy theories. Some of them are considered racist, and you've disavowed them completely.
I've never read it. I was probably aware of it 10 years after it was written. And it's been going on 20 years that people have pestered me about this, and CNN does it every single time. So well, when are you going to wear yourself out?
When you say it's no, but
when are you going to do that?
Is it legitimate? I mean, is it a legitimate question to ask that something went out
and when you get
your
the
name?
And when you get the answer, it's legitimate that you sort of take the answers I get. You know what? The answer is, I didn't write them. I didn't read them at the time, and I disavow them. That is the answer.
Goodbye. All right. Congressman. I appreciate your answer. I appreciate your answering the questions, and you understand it's our job to ask.
Thank you.
You don't? Okay. Well,
I understand how the system works.
So in this case, the reporter just kept bringing up the document that Ron Paul himself says he has nothing to do with. He didn't write it or read it. Yet despite CNN not having any new evidence, CNN kept pestering Ron Paul in the middle of his election campaign, trying to make a story out of nothing. We all know why CNN did that. CNN wants to paint Ron Paul, a very genuine and noble political figure, as some kind of boogeyman, so they could delegitimize his campaign before it even launches off. If that's not fake news, if that's not trying to create political propaganda, I don't know what is. Fake News Exhibit C, slimy journalists and political commentators. There are a lot of terrible journalists and political commentators on CNN who hardly provide anything productive to the political conversation. Let's take a look at some of their finest examples. First up, Piers Morgan talking to Supreme Court Judge Antonin Scalia. Notice the way he phrases his question.
Let's turn to Roe v. Wade, because you, Justice Scalia, you had very strong opinions about this at the time. I know you do now. Why were you so violently opposed to it?
I wouldn't say violently. I'm a peaceful man. You mean adamantly opposed? Adamantly.
Instead of Piers Morgan asking, why are you passionately against Roe v. Wade, he asked Antonin Scalia, why are you violently against Roe v. Wade? At best, Piers Morgan is trying to discredit Scalia's position before he even answers the question. At worst, Piers Morgan is trying to associate those who are against abortion with violence. Even if Piers had no malice intent here, still, the very fact that he characterizes a judge of all people as being violently against abortion is telling. Now let's take a look at Van Jones' response to President Donald Trump being elected. Notice how Van Jones uses race baiting and identity politics, not those pesky things called facts.
I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income, we've talked about class, we've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
You went down, you voted for every Democrat on the ballot, but when it came to the presidency, what'd you do?
I didn't vote for anybody.
You didn't vote for anybody?
Nobody.
But you are a woman. And you are a Democratic woman. And Hillary Clinton, as best I can tell, is a woman. I don't get it.
Van Jones, like a lot of people on CNN, is a race-baiting, sexist tool, a slimy journalist and political commentator. Trump winning the election wasn't a white lash, as he said. Trump got more minority votes than Mitt Romney and George Bush. Those same white people who voted for Obama twice also voted for Trump. Clearly, they're not racist. Also, it's not her fucking womanly duty to vote for Clinton, Van Jones. Clinton isn't entitled to her vote. Absolutely no politician should be. The fact that this joke of a human, Van Jones, still has a job on CNN would be shocking if it wasn't for the fact that CNN has that fake news status. I could continue, but you get the point. CNN hires the worst journalists and political commentators, which is why they're fake news. And finally, Fake News Exhibit D, inaccurate information or flat out lying. Believe it or not, CNN isn't the most reliable source of information. I know, right? Shocker. Here's my first example of CNN pushing what could be inaccurate information or what is a flat out lie. To provide context, there's an audio tape of what sounds like Hillary Clinton laughing at a rape victim after a courtroom trial. In one video, CNN in a report says it's Clinton. In a show with Don Lemon, he says those tapes weren't heard.
The accusation from Donald Trump and from the surrogates by PolitiFact has been paraded completely false. The claim completely false. She never laughed at the young lady.
At her.
She was it was a court-appointed attorney, and she was basically a legal aid. The PolitiFact and all the fact checks show that your claim, meaning a surrogate, not you specifically, and Donald Trump is false. And if you want to, you can look at it.
No, what she's laughing at is the fact that
it's not even clear that it's her on the audio tape.
It's not absolutely her on the audio tape. There's no equivocation about that.
Audio emerged of Clinton talking about the case with an Arkansas journalist back in the 1980s. Listen to her laugh describing the moment she delivered her forensic expert's findings to the prosecutor.
I handed it to Bailey Gibson. I said, "Well, this guy's ready to come from New York, but this miscarriage of justice."
Those recordings were played for the victim by Josh Rogan during his interview. Her reaction was...
So what is it, CNN? Is Hillary Clinton laughing at a rape victim or not? It seems like you can't make up your mind. And when are you going to retract one of the statements you've made and apologize for spreading misinformation? Regardless of whether or not that's Hillary Clinton on those tapes, and it sounds like it's her, CNN either unintentionally spread misinformation or lied, since both of those videos cannot be true. Clearly, CNN is not the most trusted name of news after all. I'll give you one more example of why CNN is not the most trusted name in news. Enjoy.
What if it was hijacking or terrorism or mechanical failure or pilot error, but what if it was something fully that we don't really understand? A lot of people have been asking about black holes and on and on and on and all of these conspiracy theories. Let's look at this. Noah says, what else can you think about? Black hole, Bermuda Triangle. And then Deji says, just like the movie Lost. And of course, they're also referencing the Twilight Zone, which is a very similar plot. That's what people are saying. I know it's preposterous, but is it preposterous, you think, Mary?
Well, it is. A black hole is about, a small black hole would suck in our entire universe, so we know it's not that. Bermuda Triangle is often weather, and Lost is a TV show. So right. I think I always like things for which there's data, history, crunch the numbers. So for me, those aren't there, but I think it's wonderful that the whole world is trying to help with their theories, and I absolutely love the theories.
Absolutely, because people are trying to find answers to something that's unexplained right now.
I think that video speaks for itself. Moving on. So Chris Cuomo, I know you don't like being called a fake journalist. It's akin to being called an ethnic slur. I know you don't like CNN being called a fake news outlet too, but I hate to break it to you, you do work for a fake news media outlet. That label of fake news is well deserved. CNN is an awful fake news media site. That isn't to say Fox News, MSNBC, TYT, or anyone else is better. That's for the public to decide, I suppose. That being said, though, you guys at CNN have your work cut out for you if you want to remove that label of being called a fake news media outlet. Personally, I hope your entire news network crumbles before you do. Good luck anyway. I'm Jay Feza from the Rebel.Media. If you don't think we're a fake news media outlet like CNN, like and subscribe to the Rebel.Media.